Welcome to the Power of Ha Inner Balance practice group. This video is an orientation video to give you an idea of where we're going to take this group and the purpose and meaning behind it, and give you some resources for understanding why breath work can be such an integral part of our daily routine. So, first and foremost, let me just talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing together. So this group meets every Monday at 6:30 a.m. Pacific time via Zoom. And the purpose of this group is to teach each of you the basic skill sets for engaging with your autonomic nervous system through breath. I'll go into a little bit more detail on that in just a moment. The second is to learn how to tap into what is called heart focused breathing or heart focused breath work. And third, to cultivate an ongoing proactive resilience, which is different than the typical type of resilience that we're all familiar with, the resilience of getting up after hardship and dusting ourselves off. This is different. Finally, it's about building coherent people in the face of challenges and hardship, but as well as joy. And coherence can be understood as a flow state. So let me talk a little bit about why we do breath work in the first place. So, the data that's coming out of neuroscience circles right now about breath work is incredible. And there's some amazing resources out there that you can tap into or read that can guide you in some really amazing directions as far as why you should be engaging with breath work. What I've discovered is that we all have an inherent fight, flight, or freeze mechanism within us. And this is an ancient part of our amygdala that tells us when we need to run away from danger. But we don't live in conditions in which we're being hunted by predators or we have a need in order to engage with this fight, flight, or freeze response for our own bodily protection. Instead, we live in a world in which we experience cognitive dissonance with a variety of different ideas. And how could we not? We're incredibly interconnected now. And this interconnection will engage this flight, fight, or freeze response. And we suddenly find ourselves in a state in which we don't want to engage. We are no longer interested in listening to what is being said. And in fact, if we're pushed, we're going to want to argue, perhaps even online, insult, and empower over another person. What we're discovering culturally is that this dynamic doesn't work. In fact, it's causing great rifts within our cultural dynamic. And so the goal is to understand how to engage with this flight, fight, or freeze response in a manner that allows you to be back in the pilot seat. Breath work allows us to do that. And so one area of research comes out of the Institute of Heart Math, which is a private science foundation out of California that has been doing research on the heart-brain connection and how to engage with it for over 35 years. What they've discovered is that when you intentionally come back to your breath and you bring that attention into your heart, you can engage your autonomic nervous system to shift away from fight, flight, or freeze and back towards cognitive, conscious responses. Incredibly, what they've also discovered is that our cognitive system is not merely found or reside within the brain. These ideas, these Cartesian methods of thinking, which came out of the Enlightenment period and are still with us today, are starting to become outdated. The idea that I think, therefore I am, which is a famous quote by Descartes, is only part of the picture. The reality is that our cognitive system encompasses not just the brain, but the heart, the gut, and the vagus nerve as well. along with a number of other subsystems that work with those areas. Here's how it works. There's over 1 billion neurons in your brain, and there's 40,000 neurons found inside your heart. And an additional 100 million neurons can be found in the lining of your gut. What's amazing is that more information moves up the vagus nerve network, which is the largest nerve network in your body, to the brain rather than moving down from the brain into the body. The gut and the heart are communicating information back up to the brain, providing the brain with the proper response to the information or stimuli that we're engaged with. One of the things that I think is very plausible in this research is that the brain indeed is the logical center of our cognitive system. And the heart is our emotional and emotive center of that same system, while our gut is the intuitive intelligence behind that system. What if we could actually engage the intuitive and the emotive areas of our body rather than just concentrating solely on the logical areas? We can. And we can do this through focused breath work. HeartMath focuses on heart-focused breath work. And the way this works is quite simple. And this is what we'll be practicing in our Monday morning meetings. What you do is you sit in an upright, relaxed position, someplace where you are comfortable. Your feet are on the floor, and you find yourself in a comfortable position with your hands. And you begin to breathe in through your nose. You hold slightly at the top while breathing out through your mouth. Neuroscience has found that the ideal breath lasts 5.5 seconds. So what we're doing is we're timing this breath in through our nose with a slight hold and out through our mouth. The heart focus comes by focusing on your heart with your imaginative system. So this is not meditative practice. Meditative practice is where we try and clear thoughts out of our brain, where we try and silence the constant narrative that is occurring in our heads. And if you're wondering what I mean by this constant narrative or voice in our heads, it's the voice that's saying inside your brain now, what voice? It's important to understand that each and every one of us have a narrative, although it manifests in different ways. Some people see images. Most people have a dialogue. This internal dialogue can be silenced through meditative practices. But we are going to stop at the door of meditative practices and instead engage our brain in imaginative practices with our heart. So the first thing we do as we're breathing in is we're concentrating on our heart center. And as we're concentrating, one of the things I like to do is I like to imagine that as I'm breathing in, that air is moving around my heart. And as I'm breathing back out, it's moving back around the other direction and out through my mouth. Finally, the last step to heart-focused breathing is to engage imaginatively and heartfelt in positive emotive responses. So you can do this in a number of different ways. You can imagine a positive memory. You can imagine a face that invokes positive feelings, or a person that invokes positive feelings, or a place that invokes these feelings. I like to use gratitude. And I like to use gratitude because, one, it's very easy to get into, and two, it allows me to perform an exercise of taking an inventory of the things that I'm grateful for each day. What ends up happening over time is that I begin to align my perspective towards manifesting outcomes in my life that are leaning into that gratitude. So gratitude is the one that I choose. So as I breathe in, I imagine the air moving around my heart. I'm concentrating on the things that I'm grateful for by creating an inventory in my head. I am grateful for this moment that I'm in now. I am grateful for being able to sit in this place. I am grateful to share this place with my wife. I am grateful that my children are able to share this with us. I am grateful of the spring that is coming very soon. And I move out in my gratitude as I breathe in and breathe out. That's it. That's heart-focused breathing. And you want to sustain that exercise between 5 to 10 minutes a day for 3 to 5 days a week. I can assure you that the more you do this exercise, the more benefits you will experience. And the benefits are very clear. First, you build a reservoir of resilience within you. The understanding of resilience that we often have in our culture is one of picking ourselves back up after hardship. But this proactive form of resilience is very different. It is one in which, in the face of hardship, we have the ability to stand firm in our personal sovereignty, in our sense of self, and in a quiet place in which we can hold space for whatever that hardship is to move on. Now, that hardship could be hard times. That hardship could be difficult conversations. And when we engage in those difficult conversations, there are methodologies that I'll go into in another video in which you can utilize in order to stay in that space, but also hold it open for new ideas to emerge. Finally, it cultivates a sense of coherence, which is to say, a flow state. Flow states are something that you would recognize. You've seen it on the basketball court or on the field. You see it with athletes all the time. They find themselves in a state in which their bodies are able to move intuitively while their brains are focused on what they're doing in the moment. This coherent state is a direct result of the communication that's taking place between the neurons in your heart and the neurons in your brain, and can be measured through what is called heart rate variability. HeartMath has several tools that you can utilize in order to measure this, and let me just share with you a couple of those. Their Global Coherence app can be utilized in order to gather data. This is the app here, and once you create an account, you can log in. We're hosting a private group, and this is where you're going to go on Monday morning. You're going to choose how you're going to connect to the sensors that will measure your heart rate variability. In this case, I chose the light sensor on my phone. It's connecting to your camera sensor at this moment. You place your finger over that camera sensor until it's able to detect your heartbeat, and the algorithm will pull out your heart rate variability. Sometimes it takes a few minutes. It takes a little bit of pressure on the screen because you need to create a good, solid seal with it. But once you have it, it will begin to calculate and calibrate your heart rate variability. You might have to try a few times, but it works pretty intuitively. Finally, if this is something that you are interested in and have not signed up for, the sign-up sheet is very simple. The link will be in this bottom description of this video. Thank you, everyone, and I will see you Monday at 6:30 a.m. Take care.